Good afternoon and welcome to today's Strategic Planning Committee meeting. Carla Silvestre, School Board Member at Large, and we'll start off by introducing our school board members.
Good afternoon, Jeanette Dixon, Member at Large.
Good evening, Nate Tinbite, Student Member.
Good afternoon, Robin Sieber, Board Staff.
Good afternoon, Becky Gibson, Board Office Staff.
Good afternoon, Keisha Addison in the Office of Shared Accountability.
Good afternoon, Henry Johnson, Chief of Staff.
Good afternoon, Brenda Lewis, Office of Curriculum and Instructional Programs.
Wonderful, thank you. We wanted to start with the informational summary, see if my colleagues have any comments or questions about that.
Oh, I'm fine.
I just looked over the follow-ups from last meeting, and if you could just check for us the question about the pre-K attendance rates. I don't think we've gotten that yet.
Pre-K attendance rates?
It's participation and how that impacts performance.
Okay.
And that is one of the follow-ups from the last meeting.
Thanks.
So today we're going to dive a little deeper into evidence of learning data for overall, but basically to compare it to our English language learners and our special education students. In addition, we're going to see the 2019 data on SAT, ACT participation and better understand who is participating in our CTE programs. So thank you for that, Dr. Hendry.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Sylvester and members of the board. At the February 24th Board of Education meeting, we did a presentation on transition data for students in grades 3, 6, and 9 in each of our focus group areas. This is the time of the year in which we're looking at transition data, and we're looking at data that is current for the students in this particular school year. We did not, however, present transition data for students with disabilities or our English language learners. So we want to begin our presentation today by sharing that data with the Strategic Planning Committee as well as the public so that they have that information in front of them as well. So, of course, you know the evidence of learning transition.
I'm sorry, Dr. Johnson. So just in terms of the 3 measures that are listed here, the first is the classroom measures, correct?
Yes, but I hadn't gotten to that slide.
No.
Okay.
No, it's kind of a review from what was shared at the board meeting.
Right.
Okay. And so the district measures, what would those be?
If I could get to the slides.
Okay.
Then I was going to explain all of that, and then I was going to let Dr. Addison talk about what the various measures are.
Okay. All right. So I guess my point in going back and looking at them is, looking at the reading for the 3rd graders. I'm on a mission with that.
Yes.
And so it was 50.3% a year ago for all of them across all elementary schools. And so that, I'm not sure where that's figured in here, in which of these categories, So just wanted to just bring that to your attention.
Yeah, we will address that
right.
question.
Okay. All right. Very good.
So specifically, this is the literacy transition data for all of our students. This information we did present to the board on February 24th. So to give the discussion today some context, we wanted to again introduce the literacy transition data for all students before we do a deeper dive into our students with disabilities and our English language learners. So again, we need to address your question, Ms. Dixon, and that is classroom, district, and external measures. So I'm going to ask Dr. Addison to give us a review of what measures are included in each of those categories.
Right. And I'm clear that, that information I had was from the MCAP, which is state assessment. Okay.
Sure.
And that was just that.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Good afternoon. So to Dr. Johnson's point in terms of classroom, district, and external measures, classroom measures are those measures that come from the teacher voice. That's the report card grades for students. District measures are the assessments aligned to the curriculum. So if students are in curriculum 2.0, there will be the assessments aligned to that. And if they are in the new curriculum, they would be assessments aligned to the new curriculum. And then the external measure for grades 3 and 6 is the MAP. And then for grade 9, it is on track for graduation and eligibility. And so the overall column on the slide you see is our goal of having students meet 2 out of 3 measures for evidence of learning.
Can you repeat the 3rd and 6th for external?
MAP. So it will be MAP R for literacy and MAP M for math.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving forward with literacy for our limited English proficient students, I'll ask Dr. Addison if she'll drill down and dig down into this data a little bit more, and then Dr. Lewis will come in from the curriculum side and talk about why those particular grade levels are at the proficient levels that they are, which you can see we have concerns because we have at least 2 of our groups, grades 3 and 6, that are in the red, which means 0 to 49% of the students were meeting the measures. Less than 50% of the students were meeting the measures. The yellow, as you can see, represents 50 to 74%. The green represents 75 to 89%, and the blue represents greater than 90% on those classroom, district, and external measures. So, Dr. Addison, do you want to talk about that data?
Sure. So as you look at the 3rd grade, you see that for classroom measure, 67.8% of students identified as limited English proficient met the classroom measure. That means that grade of AB in the literacy course. For a district measure, 36.5% met the district expectation. And then for the external measure, which is MAP, 29.5% met the expectation. And if you recall back to the conversation February the 24th, one of the things we talked about was the higher expectation for students at the district and the external measure. And so that is one reason why you see that impact in terms of red. As well as for 6th grade, you see 77.2% met the classroom measure, 19% met the district measure, and 19% met the external measure. Grade 9 looks a little different in terms of 72, rounding up to 73% met the classroom measure, 64% met the district measure, and 79% met the external measure. When we look at the percentages of students across these 3 grade levels who met 2 out of the 3 measures, it ranges from 27% for students in grade 6 to 72% for grade 9 students.
So one of the concerns that that has been raised is what are we doing and what is the reason why there has been, we have the 2 groups, the grade 3 and the grade 6 in the red category of less than 50% meeting 2 or more measures. And so I've asked Dr. Lewis to be prepared to talk with you a little bit about the curriculum and some of the distinctions between this curriculum, and then we're going to actually show you a comparison between the 2 curriculums later on. But I wanted Dr. Lewis to talk to you about the implementation of the new literacy curriculum and the impact that it's having on not only all of our students, but in particular our limited English proficient students.
Good afternoon. So as Dr. Johnson talked about, we have, with our new curriculum, we're roughly about 6 months in to implementation, so we are experiencing, as with anything new that we implement, what we would call an implementation dip. And that's where we will see potentially some of our assessment data being lower than maybe what we had seen compared to C2.0 or compared to previous data. And that's actually a very normal phenomenon that you will see as school systems implement curriculum. Another piece that I would want to highlight as well is for many of our students, particularly our ESOL students and our special education students, this is really one of the first times they're actually receiving instruction at the grade level standard. So before, as was elevated by the audit, many of our students within special education and ESOL were not receiving on grade level standard instruction. And what our curriculum does is really creates those scaffolds for them to have that instruction at the grade level. And that's part of the component too that you'll see. Not only are the standards more rigorous, but we also have all of our students now that are receiving our Eureka Math or our benchmark advanced curriculum actually being exposed to those grade level standards. So those are some of the current situations that we have in our classrooms. Another component to elevate as well is really the wealth of work that we have been doing with respect to the English language development component that we have, where we have our ESOL instructors in the classrooms really being a part of delivering that first good instruction and also supporting our ESOL students in the classrooms, whereas before it might have been much more of a pull-out approach that might be used. And the same can be said for our special education students as well. And our teachers are really where we are focusing with respect to our professional learning, where they are learning and understanding not only the standards and the rigor that we have with that, but really how to deliver that within each component of the lesson.
And this embedded support of ESOL, that's K through 8 or K to 12?
So with respect to the new curriculum, it's K to 8. As far as ESOL support in 9 through 12, I'm not able to necessarily speak to that because I'm just focusing on the new curriculum. Right?
And could you explain why the district measures are more or higher, have higher expectations? I understand
Yep, that's a great question. And again, those are measures that are designed by our vendors that then we work through standard setting committee, et cetera, to look at those. But again, that's the rigor of the instruction that we're having within our new curriculum.
What about the external? Is that more rigorous as well?
So the external would remain the same with our MAP-R and MAP-M that we're using.
But the expectation this year has been increased.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we recognize and we always revisit with our evidence of learning framework is ensuring that our expectations are aligned to standards. So knowing that the rigor of the curriculum was going to increase, we also recognize the need to move our expectations on MAP, R, and M up as well.
Okay.
There. So with each of these, do you think it would give us a more realistic picture if we disaggregated this data by when students came to Montgomery County? And those who started in, let's say, kindergarten have been with us, for the entire time in terms of having the benefit of instruction across the board, or, just looking at it at different points. It seems, we've had a lot of students who have immigrated and, some students who have had very little schooling, some not at all. But just taking a look at, that information by when students came, I think, might be helpful as well. Just a thought.
So I think, based upon what you're seeing here, this is literacy transition data, grades 3, 6, and 9.
Right.
And I just need to remind everyone that we also do the same analysis in grades 2, 5, and 8, correct?
Yes, and 11.
And 11. And so we have a pretty good, and that's done at the end of the school year.
Right.
That's ready for the next grade level. So that's done at the end of the school year. So we'll be back before the full board sometime probably in September to present that data that would show how the students perform in all of the groups over the entire school year, over the 1920 school year. One of the things I think that you will see with this data are in grades 3, many of those students that are in the LEP program at grade 3, more than likely, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Lewis, more than likely came to us with very limited English speaking skills at grade 3. And as you can see, there is some improvement from classroom only. There's some improvement by the time they get to grade 6, and there's some improvement by the time they get to grade 9. However, if you look at the district and external measures let's just look at the district measures for grade 9 and not look at the external measure, because the external measure is just eligibility, a 2.0 or above, and ready for meeting expectations towards graduation. But I would key in on the 63.8% of those students who in grade 9 with their district measures have met, are moving in that direction, so that by the time they get to high school, you're going to see an increase in the number of students who are graduating that are in this particular service group, the LEP service group. So you're going to see higher numbers in grade 9, 10, 11, and 12 than, of course, you would in grade 3 and possibly even in grade 6, because many of those students have not mastered the academic language needed for the rigorous instruction in grades 3 and grade 6, but by the time they get to grade 9, they've mastered it better. But these are students that are not exited
Right.
ESOL. These are
Right.
students that are still
Right.
in ESOL and still need those supports even as late as high school.
Yeah. So, and if you want to get back to us on this, so taking the high school, the Read 180 program, are they eligible, to be a part of that, or how does that figure in? That's a reading program that we have for students who are not proficient or need more. That's more support in reading at the high school level. So, do we know how many students we have in Read 180 across? Is every high school have that program?
We know how many schools offer the program.
Okay.
We know how many students are in the program.
Right.
I think the question is, do you have LEP students that have mastered the academic language enough to be in the Read 180, which is going to help them meet grade level, or are we still dealing with students that are coming to us in grade 9 with little or no education and little or no English? Those are the two distinctive groups that you're working with. So more than likely, those students who are coming in grade 9 that are in the Read 180 program probably came to us in middle school with very little reading instruction, and by the time they get to high school, you really have to put that in as an intervention. Those students who come to us in high school with no education or interrupted education are starting from ground zero.
Right, right.
And that's thus one of the reasons why we have a larger number of students who need more than 4 years to graduate who fall into this particular category, who fall into the LEP category, because they're coming to us for the first time in grade 9 with no education, and we have to start from the beginning to teach them the academic and social language they need in order to take advantage of a more rigorous curriculum and also be prepared for graduation and career.
Yeah.
So this is a mixture of both kids that started with us in kindergarten and kids that have come throughout the grades.
Yes,
Is that
this
correct?
is all of them.
And so I do want to add, about maybe a year or maybe 2 ago, we did bring that information to the board with one of our evidence of learning presentations in terms of students who had been with us multiple years and presented the data in that manner. So we did explore that, and we found that a good percentage of students, especially once you get through grade 8,
Yeah.
they do stay with us from kindergarten through grade 8.
So, do you have any figures on the number of students we're talking about here, at each of the grade levels?
I can get that.
We
for
can
you.
get that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be useful to see as well. And don't get me wrong, I think, we are making some strides, in terms of the new curriculum and, helping students to be more proficient in reading. And, as I said at the maybe last board meeting, I really see reading as a basic human right.
Right.
And so we want, to see, we may have to tinker a little bit to see what works. We may have to throw, more than one program at students, to see what, will take hold. But I think it's very urgent, that we want to see just, some improvements.
Right.
Okay.
I could ask a question on your previous slide. Why would the external measure at 6th grade be greater than the district measure?
So one thing to keep in mind is at the sixth grade for schools, we have about half of our middle schools in the new curriculum, and that expectation is much higher. So that's the study sync curriculum. So that expectation for meeting the expectation on the assessment is much higher than the expectation for schools that are in C2O, as well as for the district level measure. And so while we increased the expectation for the district level measure, it
Right.
wasn't increased exponentially, so that it is something that is not attainable.
And do you see any problems or issues with the classroom measures being so different than your district and external measures?
So I think one of the things when we first developed the evidence of learning framework, one of the things we wanted to see was consistency across the different categories on the framework. And when we notice differences in the categories, it helps us ask more questions about, well, what are those differences and why are they there? And so one of the things we know is, one, ensuring that teachers know what they're looking for in the curriculum in terms of grading students in the classroom measure, as well as aligning that to the new curriculum and the district measure. So we know that there's still more work to do to ensure that there's alignment across. And one of the things that we did, especially in year one, was we would look at, okay, for students who were meeting the classroom measure and not meeting the external measure, well, what was it about that student that needed support? And vice versa, we've had instances where students met the external measure but weren't meeting the classroom measure. And so those also allowed us to ask questions, well, if the student could meet the external measure, why wasn't it designated for them to meet the classroom measure? So they allow us to ask more questions about how a student is performing and where else we need to improve.
And I think to that point, one of the things that we've started to look at is how we can standardize the expectations across grade levels by looking at the creation of certain templates at certain grades, because we know there's inconsistency in the way in which teachers grade students. And so what we need to do is to see if there is some type of standard approach that we can use that continues to give the teacher the autonomy that he or she needs, but also gives us more accurate data that can be compared to the district and external. In all of these areas, you will see that the classroom measures are always higher than the district or external. That tells us that, one, there's probably some inconsistency in grading, and it's probably telling us that there may be some of our teachers may not be grading with the same level of rigor that is expected on the district and external measures. And so we really have to take a deep dive into that. And that's what Dr. Addison was talking about. This gave us an opportunity to really look at that. And thus the reason why one of the things we're looking at is the creation of grading templates, particularly in the high school and the middle school, so that there is more consistency across those grades in the way in which teachers assess student progress and student performance.
Great.
So moving on to our students with disabilities, these are the data for those groups. As you can see, again, an area that we need to work on would be our district and external measures, particularly at grades 3 and 6. And also at the high school level, we are finding that our students with disabilities are on track for graduation, but their performance on the district measures is not comparable to their classroom performance or to their external performance. And again, Dr. Lewis, would you say that we can attribute this to the implementation of the new curriculum as well?
Yes, so the same thing that I said about earlier about the elementary would be the same, again, in the middle school. And just to hone in, again, we're 6 months in, and these are not surprising, and they're components where we're really working with our teachers on what is fidelity within the curriculum, what does that look like, and we're working to hone in on what does our pacing look like, what is each component, and really the implementation right now is focused on building that skill set within our teachers and working through all of the different components that they have within their lesson, and really also building their confidence and understanding the new curriculum and how to implement it well.
So we move from literacy to mathematics. where we see, this was the mathematics transition data that we shared on February 24th with the entire board for grades 3, 6, and 9. And again, we have the same, one of the same issues going on in the fact that we only have, how many of our elementary schools that are implementing the new math curriculum?
42.
All right. 42 out of 135, and that's why we're going to give you a comparison in a moment between Curriculum 2.0 and the new curriculum. So in looking at our mathematics transition data for our LEP students, our ESOL, Limited English Proficient students, here, very similar to literacy, we still have those areas of red that are of great concern. Even more concerning is that you have an overall data for all 3 grade levels, 3, 6, and 9, falling below 50% overall. And so with that, we understand and know that there's more work that needs to be done on the curriculum side. And we will have our Dr. Lewis, how many at the middle school, how many middle school students are implementing the new curriculum in math?
The number of students or the number of schools?
The number of schools, I'm sorry.
It's at the middle school, the number of schools, it's roughly half are implementing the new curriculum.
So that would be 22?
Or 20, 21.
Okay. All right.
So students with disabilities, as you can see, very similar to our LEP students, students with disabilities, their performance in mathematics. So now the question came up, and Ms. Silvestri wanted us to address this question when we met with her earlier to plan this meeting. How are we comparing the students that are on the old curriculum versus the students that are on the new curriculum? And so it's about half and half between, well, maybe not quite half at the elementary level, maybe a third at the elementary level, and then the majority are still on Curriculum 2.0, and then at the middle school level you have half and half. So these data show a comparison of our focus groups that are in Curriculum 2.0 versus our students that have access to the new curriculum. So I don't know if either one of you have any comments you want to make on these data sets.
I do want to add that it's important to note that these, again, are our preliminary data, as Dr. Lewis has shared. We're just 6 months in terms of rolling out the curriculum. I think the other piece to understand is that with evaluation and looking for outcomes, one of the things that research tells us is that it takes at least 3 years before we really see any significant outcome changes, because one area of focus that is happening is the fidelity of implementation. And so first we need to shore up and ensure that teachers are implementing the curriculum as intended. And then once that is happening consistently, and Dr. Lewis will speak to this shortly, but once that's happening consistently, then we will be better able to see outcomes for students.
But there's one bright spot I'd like to draw your attention to at grades 3 for mathematics. If you look over at the Curriculum 2.0 with our Farms Hispanic Latino students, 35% of those students were meeting the external measure through the Curriculum 2.0. But at the new curriculum, it's 38.7. So in just a short 6 months on that external measure, which is MAP-M,
Yes.
we have seen an increase in students meeting the measure in that particular category. And in almost every single one of those categories, you see external measures, you see an improvement of student performance. So that tells us right there, if you look down the entire line of students, you have 89.2% versus 87, you have 67.3 versus 67, you have 71.8 versus 61.5, you have 66.5 versus 57. The only area in which you don't see an increase would be farms, Black and African American, where there's 45.7 or 46 versus 49, and then you have 38.7 versus 35. So this right here is an indication in just short amount of time that the new curriculum is working for many of our students because we're seeing an overall increase in their performance in just 6 months.
Now, you mentioned the dip in implementation, but we're not seeing it here. Is there something unique about the early grades that lend itself to more easier adoption, or what do you think is happening here?
Well, I think it's a little bit of what I talked about earlier, where our students all have access to that on grade level standard. So the first piece is to give them the access, and then the supports that are built in, how they differentiate, how they hone their lessons, really catering to their needs, as well as having those supports that we talked about with respect to our students that are receiving the ESOL supports and the special ed supports as well. So again, I do think a large part of what we're seeing in a short period of time is having our students having that access to on grade level standard, which is something that's new for some of our students.
But you said you were expecting a dip because of the implementation, but you don't see it here.
Right. And that's just what research will show you that we do see, and other parts of our data will show that as we implement something new and we work to really build that repertoire of our teachers, it is common and expected to see that dip. And as Dr. Addison talked about, we really it takes 3 years of that implementation, that support to our teachers to really see that high quality implementation that we have. And you'll see that even when our professional developers from Eureka Math will share, as well as our other vendors, you will see them as teachers that have been in it a long time, and you will be able to hear their voice talk about, this is how I first did it, and now here is where I have evolved. So you'll see that familiarity with the curriculum, how they do the lessons, etc., to then that deep knowledge and that application that our teachers have to really just continue to grow their high quality implementation that they have.
But let's go back for a moment, because if you look at the transition for, let me see which one I'm on. Oh no, that was, is there a, okay. If you look at the mathematics transition for all students, this is a combination of students that are in the curriculum 2.0 and the new curriculum. And then you go over here where you see just the new curriculum versus the curriculum 2.0. So in aggregate, you're going to see probably a little bit of a dip because there's still some students that are on the old curriculum versus some students that are on the new curriculum. So overall, you probably would see a dip. But what's promising here is that you're seeing some growth with the when you disaggregate the data and show only those students that are implementing are being taught with the curriculum 2.0 versus those students that are being taught with the new curriculum. So you're seeing some gains, not real significant, but you are seeing some gains in that area when you disaggregate the data from the overall.
I think it's, though, important to point out that we're dealing with smaller numbers with the new curriculum as opposed to curriculum 2.0, where it's everybody. I'm not sure what impact that all has. I don't know if you guys have been able to figure that out at all. What's your best thinking about that, or it is what it is?
Well, I think that, I don't want to say it is what it is, but I think one of the things that you'll find over the course of the next year and next couple of years, that you will see an increase as we transition most of our schools from curriculum 2.0 over to the new curricula. Now, I will say that, I had a conversation with a teacher the other day, and there is a little bit of angst among the teachers around the new Eureka Math. So it's not only going to take some time for teachers to get accustomed to it, but of course, when teachers have a little bit of anxiety over what they're teaching, that kind of transfers to the students. But for the most part, many of the teachers, once they begin the program and once they start teaching the program with fidelity, they like it. But as Dr. Addison said, it's going to take us a good 3 years And because it's a 3-year implementation program at the elementary level to begin with, so it's going to take the elementaries a little longer than it will the middle school to get to the point where teachers are really comfortable with teaching the new curriculum the way it should be taught with fidelity. So looking at grade 6, the transition data, the curriculum 2.0 versus the new curricula. Now here, interestingly enough, when you're looking at the external measures in grade 6, you don't see that same increase that you saw in grade 3. In grade 3 in external measures, you saw an increase in almost every single area. When you get to grade 6, you notice that there is a slight dip in the focus groups from the curriculum 2.0 to the new curriculum in almost all of the focus group areas. Would you venture to say any reason why do you think that is? Is it the same reason, the implementation? Or is it?
No, I was gonna say, I think one of the things, not to keep saying the same thing over, but we're still early, and we're gonna see these fluctuations across the grade levels. And so I wouldn't be surprised if, at elementary, we see the data looking one way, maybe because they are still early in learning their mathematical concepts,
Right,
versus in middle school, they've kind of progressed and
Right.
they needed to be at a specific level. And so the new curriculum, they're taking them where they want them to be, with the thinking that they've been in this curriculum for a while, but they haven't. So they're transitioning from C2O to a new curriculum which has different expectation and is being instructed in a different way.
Okay, so one of the areas that Ms. Silvestri asked us to explore is, what are schools doing to mitigate these numbers and to look at their practices and what they're doing with the implementation of the new curricula, whether it's in literacy or whether it's in mathematics. So Dr. Lewis is going to highlight 2 schools that are doing some really good work and moving their students in the right direction. Now, we will say, though, as a caveat to that, we haven't seen yet, 6 months in, we haven't seen the data that we would like to see for these 2 schools. We'd like to see better data. That's why we're not highlighting it, because we'd like to see better data. What we have seen, though, are the practices that are moving us in the direction of improved performance for the students. So Dr. Lewis is going to highlight for us Georgian Forest, and I believe your other school is Strathmore. Okay.
So when I reached out to Mrs. Mann over at Georgian Forest, she said the first component that she wanted to highlight was really the culturally responsive teaching practices that they continue to implement, to have professional development on, that she provides feedback on to her staff. And then she talked a lot about how it's essential that they are constantly disaggregating their data by race and ESOL levels. And she takes and works with her staff then on what are the implications of this data? What are we going to do about it? How will we use this to inform our practice? And then she also engages the staff in a lot of self-reflection about how does race impact this? How does this impact our interactions that we have with students? What are our expectations? And what are the instructional practices? So really talking about what is the impact of race and really drilling that down in how does that inform my practice as a teacher? And then we guide our students, our sites, for a math block to have at least 60 minutes. Many of our sites in Eureka Math has designated 75. However, at Georgian Forest, they actually do a week A and a week B schedule. So during week A, they have an 80-minute block for math, and a week B, they have a 95-minute week block for math. So you can see they really prioritize that in their master schedule, and there are many more minutes of instruction than what the guidance has been coming out of our office, and that could potentially be a part of why they are seeing really the level of instruction that they are seeing over at their school. One of the components that you'll see for Georgian Forest is a very detailed planning tool that they use during their collaborative planning time. So first they have teachers obviously become very familiar with the content of the lessons, and then when they come together, they really use this planning tool to take that deep dive to be very strategic, so that they use that time to not only learn the lessons, but to really learn about how to customize that for their learners in their classrooms. And again, that comes back to basing it off of looking at the data through the ESOL lens and the racial lens as well. And the planning tool, I believe, was also emailed to you as well. So you can see this is not the full planning tool, but this is just a sample of that. We also reached out to Strathmore and found out what are their feelings about what they are doing with respect to Eureka Math. And they really talked again about that in-depth curriculum study. So that preparation and designing of the lessons, the customizations, how do we progress within each module, and the pacing. How do we do that long-range planning so that we ensure that we have all of our students having that access to the standards, we're not getting behind, and we're very purposeful about that. And then talking about what are the background skills that our students have that they're coming into this lesson with, but what are the background skills they don't have, and how do we supplement that so that they have that. And then also the use of the exit tickets is very powerful with respect to assessing not only that day's learning, but then honing the lesson, honing for the next day so that they have a good starting point that's individualized to each of their students. And then they really highlighted the importance of that good first instruction. And that's where we have our students that have that access before they have any interventions. What does that good first instruction look like, and how do we scaffold that, whether it be for our students to understand and debrief the questions or having that access. And then they use a check-in system to ensure that they're constantly monitoring how their students are doing. Then they talked about really the academic language and really highlighting that and using that intentional emphasis on academic language, speaking and writing, and demonstrating the comprehension and use of vocabulary. Can you go ahead just for one? I wanted to show these anchor charts. She sent over a wealth of anchor chart photos for me, but these are two that I wanted to feature. And notice how they, again, highlight that academic language for the students so that they have that, they can refer to that during the math lesson, and they see that richness that they have on that focus. And then another component that they talked about, again, similar to Georgian Forest, was really their data analysis discussion meetings. So this is in addition to their planning meetings, really looking at how are our students doing within the math, how are they doing within the word problems, how are they doing at the mid and end of module assessments. And that really informs them then how they can work in their planning and how they can hear from one another and how they can customize and hone and have that collaborative approach. A middle school that we highlighted was Ridgeview Middle School. They have really highlighted and intentionally had for their teachers full day planning days. And this is where they're devoted, so they're not trying to squeeze it in a 47-minute period, where they're able to really have the planning time and being intentional about understanding that curriculum and how they're going to deliver that. And then they talked about how they have their heterogeneous groupings, particularly in their Math 6. And then they talked about their smaller class sizes that they have prioritized, as well as having their special ed. One of their teachers in the co-taught is a special ed certified teacher. So again, able to really work with the math, the general ed math teacher to deliver that instruction. And then again, that planning here of PLC planning days per week, and that's where they do that deep dive into the data. What is that impact, and how is that going to inform our instruction and our next steps? And then really implementing this into the school improvement plan and student learning objectives when they are doing their planning.
So one of the things that we wanted to emphasize by highlighting those schools is that our schools are making an intentional effort to increase the performance of the individual students at their schools, and they are doing it in they're using a systematic approach. They're actually analyzing the data, they're actually looking at their master schedules to see how they can schedule teachers and so forth. So they are aware that in many instances that their data are not good, and so they have then come up with their own plans of how they're going to create an environment, a teaching and learning environment that will improve the performance of the students at their individual schools. Our hope is that when we get ready to do this presentation again in the fall, and looking at our ready for the next grade level data, that we will see improvements based upon some of these practices that they've put in place at these schools.
So do Georgian, Forest, and Strathmore, let's say, they have the opportunity to benchmark with other schools, to find out what they're doing that they think is effective as well. So I guess my question is, what, over the course of time working on the new curriculum and so forth, what opportunities have teachers from varying schools and principals as well had an opportunity to benchmark with other schools to see what they think works really, really well? Have these two schools had an opportunity to share, with the other elementary schools? And, this is working well for us.
So we have, our math team has PLCs where we have our cohort 1 implementers that come together as principals and our math coaches that come and share best practices, ideas, troubleshoot. Those meetings, I went to one in September, and it is amazing to me and so rewarding to see when you compare that to what we are now seeing in February. So in September, it was much more of just that learning, that troubleshooting. We're having concerns around pacing. We're not getting the lessons done. We're not understanding for sure how to use the exit tickets, to now hearing a much deeper level of thought and practitioners sharing about those best practices. As far as if we have had these two schools highlighted for other principals outside of that format, we have not. However, as we're moving forward to bring on our cohort 2, we are working with our principals to share what are those best practices, to tell our cohort 2 folks, here's what to expect. Here's a mistake or a misgiving that I did. Please be mindful of this. Here's how you provision for the materials coming in. Here's something that I didn't expect to think about. Also talking about the various stages you go. When I was doing site visits in early October, it was feeling very different than the enthusiasm that we had in early September, which those site visits then felt different in November. So our principals can share kind of that momentum that our staff feels as they are going through this new curriculum implementation. So those are components that are critical with that share out among our principals, our math coaches, and then bringing it to the teachers. We also have sites that are cohort 2 sites that are visiting cohort 1 sites to see lessons in real time so that they can understand and know what that looks like. And also components where they look at then what do master schedules look like, and see those various examples of how schools are doing it.
I had heard also that, the math performance is an issue for the whole country, right?
Mm-hmm.
The whole country needs to improve their math scores. And I had heard that teacher comfort with math content is a big issue nationwide. Do we see that here? And what are we doing about that? Or how do you mitigate that so it doesn't impact academic performance of students?
Yes, so as we shared back in January when we came with a curriculum update, we are working on a math plan district-wide, and one of the major components within that is the content knowledge of the math for our teachers. And you'll notice that especially in the upper elementaries as well, where our teachers have some less confidence in their understanding and the content of that, as well as then teaching it in a totally different way and using different approaches. For example, many of our teachers did not learn math through using a tape diagram, but that's a key component for our curriculum. So they not only have to understand how to deliver that use of a tape diagram and make it make sense for their students, they themselves have to understand that and be able to see that as a strategy that's used, and also have that even deeper confidence and understanding to diagnose why a student is maybe struggling in a particular area. And so that's a large body of the work that we are focusing on with our math plan, is just really increasing that that content knowledge for our teachers, because you do generally see where our teachers at the elementary level are more comfortable delivering ELA and have a little less confidence or comfort sometimes within the math content.
So that will be accomplished through professional development?
Professional development, and also working through different components about how do we utilize our PLCs that we have, how do we give that coaching, that feedback in the buildings as well. And then the planning time is so crucial for the lesson study so that our teachers really understand the content.
I think one of the things that you'll see with the new math curriculum in particular is because it's so prescriptive and teachers are trained a certain way to implement and teach the curriculum. I think that may mitigate some of the concerns that teachers have around the lack of knowledge of the content, because the Eureka math is very, very prescriptive. What I have found so far is that many of the teachers who have been teaching math at the lower grades, at the elementary grades for a while, have more of a problem adjusting to the new curriculum than those who have not. Because those who have not are coming in for the first time teaching it, and the program is so prescriptive that it just tells them exactly what to do. Well, if you've already been teaching math at the elementary level for 10 or 15 years, you grow accustomed to a certain way of teaching a particular concept, and now this new prescriptive program is forcing you to make the change, and that's where some of our teachers are having the difficulty in making that transition from the old to the new. But some of our newer and younger teachers are probably not experiencing that, even if their knowledge of content is weaker than we would like it to be, and then they would like it to be also. They've got a prescriptive program that allows them to do such.
In the Georgian forest example, you talked about self-reflection. How does our individual racial identity inform our interactions, expectations, and instructional practices? Can you help me understand what that looks like in the classroom?
Sure, and that's also tied to the culturally responsive teaching practices as well. So really looking at it through that racial lens and understanding what our students' perspectives are, how are we teaching that, what is my own bias, what is my own mindset, do I have lower expectations for my students of color than I do for my white and Asian students. So really examining that and calling that out and being intentional about how we plan for that, and also giving that feedback as well when the principal is seeing in the classroom things like maybe an internal bias, having that conversation with the teacher about that and how to be very conscious of that, and also to have that continuous focus throughout the professional development as well.
And I think one of the good things about the new literacy curriculum is that it is so diverse that it actually allows the students to see themselves in the curriculum and see texts that are closely related to their lives and to their identity, that it kind of teaches everyone. It teaches the students and it teaches the teachers to have a greater sense of awareness of the students that are in the classroom, and the texts themselves closely mirror the lifestyles and the lives of many of those students from a racial lens and from a cultural lens.
So this morning on the Today Show, as you talked about this, I forget whether it was the Alphas or the Kappas, but they were in one of the elementary schools in New York reading to students. And I may have come on the end, whether it was a charter school or, regular New York City school, but the students did have uniforms, and, this group of young African-American men were in a predominantly African-American class, and it was interesting. They looked coordinated in terms of having red jackets, and the kids had red uniforms. But in any case, that connection that these African-American young men made with the students in the class was huge.
Yes.
In terms of helping them, well, number one, reading to them, and generating this enthusiasm for reading. By the time, they left, the kids were over the moon about this. And so the Today Show then, and by the way, they were able to take those books home as well, keep the books. And see, this is a big thing, I think, in terms of, I don't want to be like Bernie Sanders waving my finger, but keeping the books, and, that this is something that you own. And, for someone like me who, like I have a lot of books, and I don't know what I would do without all these books. I'm going to cull them. But then the Today Show took this a step further, and I don't know who provided it, but it was a book fair. They brought these same students back into the plaza, and they had all these books out, and the students could take whatever book they wanted, however many they wanted. I mean, it was incredible. And I think, those are some of the things that, we have to do to, gin up an interest in reading. And, a lot of the students had not been previously read to when they were younger. And so, this interest now on their part, was real. It was very infectious.
Or even owned a book.
Right.
Some of them have never owned a book.
Right. I think it's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. So let's maybe give away books.
Yeah. So now we're going to move over to the secondary high school part of our presentation, which is around college and career readiness. We were asked to analyze and evaluate the participation and performance of members of the class of 2019 on SAT, ACT, and I'll ask Dr. Addison to take us through that data.
So here you see the federal racial ethnic group reporting categories, and overall you see that 75.6% of the class of 2019 took the SAT. One of the things to highlight here is our efforts to increase access to taking the SAT, which, thanks to the support of the board, that we do this SAT school day testing. And so with the all class of 2019, the mean SAT total score is 1119. You also see a few highlights here where you see for our African American students, 81% took the SAT. For our special education students, 55% took the SAT, and for our limited English proficient students, 47% took the SAT. Also for the ACT, students can take one or the other, or they can take both. It's really up to them. You see lower percentages of the students taking ACT, but that's typical in terms of participation in ACT. We typically see a much lower percentage of students taking the ACT compared to the ACT. To the SAT, I'm sorry.
So since the start of the MCPS SAT day, has there been an increase in the amount of students taking
Yes,
SAT?
and so in our, we do an annual memo, and so we track that percentage, and we can also circulate that back to you, but we definitely have seen an increase in the access for students taking the SAT.
And even with that and the fee waivers and everything that we're doing, we're still not reaching over 80% for a lot of our groups.
Correct.
Well, I think
we're
one of the
paying,
things,
aren't we? Aren't we
no more
paying
fee
for this?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
yes, we're paying for this, and I think one of the things we need to note also is that some of those students are taking, they may not take the SAT, but they're taking the ACT, or some of them are taking both. That's the reason why you have, 75.6% took the SAT, 30.7% took the ACT. If you combine those together, it's more than 100% because you have some students that take both. We only pay for one or the other, but there's some students who choose to take both.
And a lot of students also take tests like the AccuPlacer, right?
Yes, a lot of our students take the AccuPlacer, although many more of our students, and we'll get to this data in a moment, many more of our students are determined college and career ready by the end of 12th grade, and thus there's no need for them to take the AccuPlacer anymore. Because if they can be determined college and career ready by the time they graduate, MC will accept that. And then they don't have to take the AccuPlacer, which is Montgomery College's placement test for them.
Do we have data on, so first my question is, when did we start our MCPS-SAT day?
We started the SAT day in 2018. It was a part of the 2016-17 budget, and we started implementing it in 2018. And so now we're 2 years into it.
Did we have any data before that as to how many students took the SAT?
Yes, we do.
I'd appreciate if we would
Sure.
be able to.
Is
All right,
this-
moving on.
Just a quick question about the SAT. Is this correct? 73.5% of white students took the SAT?
Yes.
That's less than African American students?
Look at the ACT for
Yeah,
whites.
okay. Well, that went up. I guess they're really getting, the ACT, I think, is considered more friendly to students going to college, but I'm very surprised by that. What do you all think about that?
Surprised by,
The percentage of white students that's so much lower.
oh,
So one of the things we noticed when SAT switched to their newer version of SAT, a lot of students switched over to taking the ACT. And I think to your point, in terms of students may have found that more friendly in terms of taking the ACT, but slowly but surely, so we saw a dip in participation in SAT and an increase in ACT. And so now it's kind of the pendulum is switching back to now we're seeing more students going back to the SAT now that this newer version of SAT has been implemented for a few years now. So I think we'll probably get back to where it was before in terms of those students taking the SAT like they did in the past.
and remember, these numbers were a couple of years ago, those numbers were probably pretty high for our white population, but because we do SAT school day and allow access for all of our students to take it at grade 11, you see these marked increases in the other populations of students because they now have access to it. They don't have to do it on Saturdays. They don't have to go outside their school. They don't have to go into DC to take it because all of the testing centers in Montgomery County are full. We offer it to them already, so they can just take it during the school day. We do an abbreviated schedule for them, for the administration of it, so it's just much easier for many more students to access it.
Right. Well, I would think that would be true for, all the things you said for white students as well. That drop concerns me, but it may be, the ACT is a part of that as well. But I think that would be worth investigating, why that occurred.
But if you look at the ACT, you notice that the white students are the high, it's almost
Right.
48% of the,
Right.
of the
Right.
white students took the ACT, so
Yeah.
you're
what
right
I
in that regard.
Yeah, what I remember about the ACT in the past is, up in that 20-some percent, this 26% of African American students. It's very hard to, reconcile this without having the comparisons, from year to year to year. I think that's really important. You can really see what we're doing there.
And we can recirculate, you all received
Right,
already a
right.
report. We can
Yeah.
send that back out again.
Right, yeah, we
Because
didn't
we've
bring
done it
that
over
one
the
with
course of
us.
3 years.
Right,
Okay, so we
right.
can.
I'll have to look at that very closely.
So make sure I'm understanding this right. So your numbers of a student that took, if you only said took the SAT or ACT, your percentages would be higher.
Meaning, your question is if
Number-
we would only, who only took one?
No. If you were reporting number of students that took either,
Oh.
it would be higher than. Why don't you report it that way?
This does report either. So I could be a student who took the SAT or the ACT, or I could be a student who took both. And so in these percentages, I am included on either side. So if I only took the SAT, I'm in the SAT percentage. If I took the SAT and the ACT, I'm in both percentages.
I guess to your point, you wouldn't average the two. Because if you average, let's say, 73.5 and 47.7, it's very low.
It does come
low.
out a little lower, and in the memo we circulate, we do have a percent of students who took SAT or ACT in one column, and so I think when we recirculate that,
Okay.
you'll see that it's usually about 60-something%.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's 66.
Okay, moving on, we then disaggregated the data by our focus groups on which we report all of our data. So Dr. Addison, do you want to take us through that?
Sure, and so as you look at the performance of students in the monitoring group and the 5 focus groups, we see some differences in the percent of students who took the SAT. 82% of our non-FARMS Black or African American students took the SAT with a mean total score of 1032. For our FARMS African American students, you have about 80% with their mean total score of 951. For our non-FARMS Hispanic, we have about 65%, as well as for our FARMS Hispanic, we have about 65% who took the SAT, and their mean scores were 1011 and 920 respectively. And so for ACT, you do see differences in participation with our non-FARMS group having the highest participation in ACT, and our lowest participation rate for ACT are Hispanic and Latino students impacted by poverty.
So
And I want to say, Dr. Addison, I think you have this on that memo that went out to the board too. These either the composite score for ACT or the combined score for SAT. I know they outperform the national average, but I think they outperform the state average as
Yes,
well.
that is correct.
And when you're calculating the ACT composite, it's not, so the composite's the raw score, right? It's not super scored or anything?
Correct.
Okay.
but there's still students that are not participating.
Yes.
Yes.
What do we think that's attributed to?
Well, I think if you look at the, let's go back. If you look at, our LEP population and our special education population, I think you will find notice that their students, those percentages are markedly different from the rest of the other racial subgroups. And I think there are many students that are just not ready for it. Even by grade 11, they're not ready for it yet.
Okay.
And with our LEP students, because of the large numbers of students we have coming into high school, knowing very little English at grade 9, or even coming in grade 6 or 7 knowing very little, they're just not ready for it. And our special education students, some of their parents just feel, because it is something that's written into the IEP, and some of their parents just feel like their children are not ready yet at that particular level to do it.
I think we also have to do a better job with encouraging Hispanic and Latino students. Just looking at the numbers for non-FARMS, 64.8, and FARMS Hispanic Latino 64.7, and then took the ACT, non-FARMS 16.7, and FARMS 9.3. So we just have to do a better job with outreach, especially since we're paying for,
Right.
one or the other.
And the test prep industry, as we know, is huge in our community. Are there opportunities for students that don't have the means to go out and pay for test prep to do free online practice tests? I know just practicing the test is important in improving your score. What opportunities are there for students to take a couple practice tests, at least as a minimum test prep strategy?
Many of our schools, particularly our schools in our high impacted areas, offer an SAT or an ACT prep course during the school day in which students are introduced to that. However, as early as 10th grade, when the students are introduced to the PSAT, then once they're in the system and they're introduced to the PSAT, College Board then takes that PSAT score and starts creating basically a personalized learning and assessment plan for those students, and starts just rolling out things to them along the way using Khan Academy. Khan Academy is the test preparation program that the College Board uses and emphasizes in all of its information that it sends to school. So even if the school doesn't have a program, a prescriptive program for SAT prep, this is SAT only, not ACT now, students can access that through their personalized portfolio plan with College Board that just rolls out assessment questions to them, rolls out information. I don't know, Nate, did you use Khan Academy?
Yeah, most definitely. That is, it's most definitely a support not only used by a few people, but pretty much everybody uses Khan Academy at this point. And it's also not only for SAT prep, but for AP exams as well.
Good.
Some of the PTAs at the high school level give a, prep test for ACT or SAT. I don't know that every PTA does that. That could be an equity issue as well. And then students get those scores back as well. I seem to remember it was like the PTA at Paint Branch did that, and it was like $10 for them to come, but they'd have to come on a Saturday to take it. So that might be something to look into, as well. So.
But with SAT in particular, and because of our relationship and all of the work that I've been doing with College Board, one of the things that College Board is emphasizing is that it's not necessary, unless you want to, it's not necessary for parents to pay for those high-priced SAT prep courses, because College Board has a wealth of information right there on their website, personalized for each student, giving them questions, and if they follow that prescriptive plan, they should be able to perform fairly well on the SAT. And I don't know if the ACT does anything very similar to that or not, but I know the College Board recognizes and has recognized now for a number of years the equity issue, and therefore that's one of the reasons why they solicited the support from Khan Academy to provide those test administration prep opportunities for students. It's a very good program. It's a really good program. So the other area of concern, well, not concern, another area that we wanted to report out would be students who met college, the CTE, TSA, and industry certification. And Dr. Addison will take us through that data.
Sure. So what you have in front of you is the completion of a state-approved career and technology education program, which is the CTE Completer, technical skills assessment, which is listed as TSA, and then those who attained industry certification. And so the career and technology education completers are those students that have completed an approved CTE program of study, typically 4 credits in a given CTE program area. Technical skills assessment is aligned to the CTE students' concentration area, and these are recognized by the Maryland State Department of Ed and lead to students earning college credit or industry recognized licensure or certification. And so if you look at the data presented, you see that for and I'll highlight our limited English proficient students, of the 3,742 students that were in grade 12, we had 499 CTE completers, and so that was about 13.3% of that group. We also had 45 attain a TSA, or a technical skills assessment, took a technical skills assessment, which was about 1.2%, and another 2.1% received industry certification. Also for special education, we have about 20.9% who were CTE completers, 1.1 took a technical skills assessment, and about 2.1 received industry certification.
And so one of the things that you will hear Dr. Smith talk about as we move into the 2020-2021 school year is looking at high school. And this is an area that he is particularly interested in getting these numbers up, particularly in the category of attained industry certification, because that means that students can graduate from high school and go straight into the industry in what he says a good wage job, and they will be able to begin their careers as early as age 18 or age 19. So I can tell you that a lot of emphasis in the next 3 to 4 years will be placed on the industry certification area, because he feels like more and more of our students should be prepared for the industry once they graduate from high school. It's fine to graduate from high school being college prepared and college ready, but there is no reason why students can't graduate being both college prepared and college ready, and career prepared and career ready, and that's where the industry certification would come in. And so you'll see a lot of emphasis probably over the next 3 to 4 years in that area, because Dr. Smith would like more and more students to attain that industry certification before they graduate from high school.
And what's wonderful about that as well is that you can use that certification to earn money. If you want to go to college, you can do that way as well. And I have to tell you, we will need students to take care of us as we baby boomers, continue to age out of here.
Definitely. So Nate, get ready.
I was laughing. I'm trying my best.
So what does it take to get from a CTE completer to a TSA attainer to an industry certification? Is it a matter of passing a test, or is it more courses?
It's both. It's coursework. It's 2 years of coursework to reach the CTE completer phase, and then in order to get to the industry certification phase, you have to pass a national exam in that area, whether it's cosmetology, whether it's electrician, whether it's computer networking. Those are the types of courses and programs that students need in order to get the certification and the industry attainment.
And on the next slide, actually, it's kind of a crosswalk of differences in terms of what program of study versus the technical skills assessment versus the certification or specific criteria. And so you'll see for that first one, the program of study might be the academic of health professionals pharmacy technician, but then the TSA would be just a different type of certification, and then there'll be some specific criteria related to that.
And so if you go into CVS and all around Montgomery County, and you see the pharmacy techs that are there, many, if not most of them, are Montgomery County graduates and have either gone through this program or they're going through a very similar program. And so that's just one example of ways in which students can attain that particular certification and what they do with it once they attain it. So,
Well, some want to go on to become pharmacists as
Right.
well. I think it's a great goal.
so that concludes our presentation to you today, and so we'll take the time to address any of your questions or have more discussion around our topics for today. Ms. Silvestri?
Yeah, one of my concerns or inquiries about the CTE data was to ensure that ESOL students were accessing the CTE program. And based on the chart that you gave us on page 20, we have decent participation. 13% of LEP students at the high school level are participating of grade 12 students.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah. So it's kind of right there in between, not the highest, not the lowest. But so they're able to complete their graduation requirements and take part in, elective courses that lead to a CTE program.
And more than likely, the reason why the numbers aren't higher for our LEP students is because many of them, particularly those that are coming to us in middle school and those that are coming to us in high school in grade 9, they need all of the periods of the day in order to access their regular curriculum for graduation. Now, part of the regular curriculum for graduation does include elective courses that they can take like this, but they also need, in many instances, more English, more math, particularly more English. They just need more of it, so they may not have the opportunity to. But as you can see, over 500 of the 37, almost 3750 of them completed the course, and 77 of the 499 attained industry certification, which is not bad considering you're starting off with 499. But many of them may not have the opportunity because they either have to worry about the graduation component, trying to graduate within the 4 years or 5 years. Now, if they're doing it in 5 years, many of them, they will have an opportunity to access these courses. If they're trying to do it in 4 years and their English is very limited, it's going to be much more difficult, because not only are you talking about academic language for those students learning academic language, you're also talking about those students also attaining technical language in that particular field and in that particular area, which can be somewhat of a challenge if you don't know, if you don't have strong academic language skills going into these various programs.
So in the schools, if I'm a 9th grader, how do I get on track so that I can take advantage of these programs? Where is this?
So there are a couple of opportunities. They have after school instruction, which is, when I was a high school principal and Ms. Dixon was a high school principal, it was called High School Plus. They have all kinds of names for it now, and that's where students can actually have an opportunity to take another course outside of the regular 7-period day. They also have many of the students, particularly the LEP students that are trying to meet graduation requirements, will take that English 10 in summer school, because they have to pass the state assessment in order to graduate, which is the English 10 assessment. So many of them will take it in a concentrated period of time over the summer, so they don't have any other courses to worry about. They get that one out of the way, and then they're on their way towards graduation. So you have those after-school programs, you have summer school opportunities. Many of the students that are finishing up in 4 years are taking advantage of all of those various programs in order to meet that 4-year, to be in that 4-year cohort. But for those who don't, there's that 5th year. There's nothing, we think, for them to be ashamed of if it takes 5 years or even 6 years for some of them to fully access the language, to access the curriculum in order to graduate from high school. And they have that opportunity to do that as well.
But 9th graders hear about these options
Yes,
from whom?
they're counselors, primarily. The counselors will sit down with them either in 8th grade, well, they do in 8th grade, and they do a program of studies with them in 8th grade that takes them from 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. And then when they get in high school, the counselor sits down with them again and goes through that program of studies and makes adjustments based upon their performance that year or their performance in previous years as they're trying to meet that graduation attainment within 4 years.
Great. Questions?
So I have just 3 comments, and they're just things for you guys to think about going forward. So one is our Latino students. It seems to me that in a couple of areas we need somebody who's going to own all of this, and someone who's going to check on this every day, like a quarterback for opportunities for our Latinx students. And so, what's our plan to get, the number of students who are taking the SAT and the ACT up? Who owns that work, and who's checking on it seems everybody owns that, but, is there one person in the central office who, looks at that every day and checks on that? I mean, what are we going to do? Because, stuff has been like this for a long time. So that's one thing. And the other thing they could do as well is take in, moving those percentages of students who are, industry certified as well. That's a great goal. So, a special assistant for all of that, I think, is appropriate in terms of having someone who will focus on that like a laser beam. The other thing that struck me about the literacy data, and I understand that, we're dealing with, probably about 20 schools or so in the elementary level. And we have all of these, different measures and things like that. Some of it, I would imagine, might be a little confusing to the teachers, confusing to parents, maybe even confusing to the students. But I think, I would just have one measure at the end of third grade. Maybe Benchmark could, put that together for us. You're gonna exit third grade, and all third graders we're going to see whether you're proficient in reading or, highly proficient. And that's gonna be it, okay? You're gonna exit either being proficient or highly proficient or, below grade level. And so I would really love to see us come up with our own assessment, because I know they're going to change the state assessment. I mean, that's really the one. And, how do other school systems do on that? I'd probably, not as well, but if there's anyone out there doing better than we are, we should be talking with them, I would imagine, about this. But, you talked about all of the factors, that go into, what students are learning and when they're learning it, and the teacher comfort with it, and with teaching the new curriculum. So, just whatever they teach, at the end of the third grade, we're going to see, who's coming out of third grade based on the curriculum that we're teaching in terms of the literacy, whether students are proficient or not. Okay. The math, I'm not a math expert, but I will say this, probably until I go to my grave, but unless you know those multiplication facts, you come out of elementary school knowing those multiplication facts, I think it becomes very, very difficult. And, we used to get a little bit of, I remember specifically one parent, I think, I'll say where it was, at Blair, told the principal there, I didn't have high standards for the kids because I was asking the ninth graders to demonstrate proficiency with the multiplication facts. And you would be amazed at the students coming to us who did not know, 2 times 2 is 4. That doesn't change. 1 plus 1 is 2. That's not going to change. So, we need to do some work with that. And we would give, and students were told before they came to ninth grade that we were going to test them on that. We sent the multiplication tables, and, we also gave certificates. And, some students didn't get a certificate until the end of the school year because we had them repeat that, doing assessments with it. So that's, what I will say about math. And I think it's pretty important. I mean, you all learn them. I learned them. I'm sure you have learned your multiplication facts. And it's good enough for all of us. I think it's good enough for all of our kids. They should all be able to do it, really. So I'll just leave it at that for today. I think we've got some follow-up things. going forward. Thank you.
One thing I did want to ask about was the communication with parents. So I'm trying to remember in terms of the evidence of learning, we talk about our multiple measures, but I believe that most of the conversations on our students' achievement with parents is about teacher grades. Do we also talk about the multiple measures with parents so that they understand you may have gotten a B in third grade math, but actually your external measure is not so good?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we do is with each of these assessments, the parents are aware of the assessments because they get the student scores. And so they get the external measure, which is West Park is now MCAP. They get those scores, and it's broken down for them. And they've done a very good job in that school report card or student report card in giving information to the parents about how their students are performing right down to the standard, which is really good. And then I don't know, do we provide MCAP?
So MCAP data is sent to parents. Also, MAP data is sent out to parents via the parent portal, as well as parents can see performance of students on the district measure. So teachers do share that information. A lot of that district measure information is connected to the grade book, which is pushed into the parent portal. So as a parent I'm a parent of 2 middle schoolers, and so when I log in, I can see how my kids did on their district assessments, and I can also receive the MAP report in terms of their performance on that. And so I know at parent-teacher conferences, more so, I remember at the elementary level, the teacher would talk to a parent about, well, here's how your child performed on MAP, here's how they look in the classroom, and so those conversations are happening across multiple measures.
And the district measures are part of the grade, or they're not?
So for secondary, yes, they are factored in, not so much at the elementary level.
Dr. Johnson, you had talked to me a little bit about understanding the eligibility measure in 9th grade. Is that staying, transitioning, and why do we use that?
I think that's coming back before the board for more conversation and discussion. And that was one of the reasons why we didn't include it here, is because I think it was a conversation that was brought before the board, and I think it's coming back to the board to make a decision, particularly at the 9th grade level, eligibility for 9th graders in particular.
Okay.
It's coming back before the board for more discussion as a follow-up.
That's from the policy committee.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you so much for the presentation.
Sure. Thank you.
We're dismissed.